it's,
Yeah,
what do they call it?
it's the Sheraton, up by the Sheraton.
If they're in phase
On the
one and
street,
going to
it's-
phase
oh,
two.
yeah, it's-
Yeah,
They actually,
that
have,
is the
that's the host hotel, and they have 3 other hotels
That is
that
the
they've bought.
22. Yeah.
I heard phase, we're in phase two, and I just heard phase one was delayed.
Yeah, they've, it was back on my
Yeah.
memory, just, I think we have a follow.
It's interesting.
I know there's been some delays. Yeah, the river, yeah.
Funding never get colder.
Huh?
Funding never get,
It's an old case.
funding's still there, as far as you know.
Yeah, I know they just got strict on, they just got strict on some items. Yeah, and they kind of dropped that. If,
You know,
if you want
I don't know
the
if
extra
that's
word.
Yeah, I knew
that
that.
all, yeah, so
Yeah.
I think that's
it's
all.
probably, and then it was, you know,
Just took off.
you know, years ago, it was.
It was just on there.
Everything that was quiet, now they're more public. You know, so, there's more reporting of this kind of thing, I think, you know, a lot of times, he said that, if child came out with something, it was, handled quietly. There's a lot of issues for, teachers and professionals to have to report. Otherwise, their licensing and stuff. So, yeah, so.
Hey,
Hey,
Oh, please, I think you can. Once you screw down one more, get no more. I just don't wanna. Don't worry, you're not worried about it, okay?
all right.
Citizen ready for comment or something?
Alrighty. It is 4 PM on May 29th, 2025. This is the Maritime Safety Committee meeting held here at the city of Nassau Bay, Texas, 1800 Space Park Drive, Suite 200 in Council Chambers, Nassau Bay, Texas, 77058. This is the call to order. We will start off with the roll call. So,
Jim Stock.
Jeff Orton.
Tracy Small?
Paul Lopez.
Audrey Kirby.
Alrighty. Chief George, Chief Cromie,
Yes, sir. President.
and Brian Brown. So, committee is present. All right, we will start with the, move on to the citizens' comments. Please keep your remarks to a minimum or to a maximum of 3 minutes. Would anybody like to comment, public comment? All right, going once, twice. It is 4:02 p.m. We are closing the citizens' comments. Committee member comments. I know, Chief Cromie, you gotta get going,
Yeah,
so if
I
you don't mind.
I do have to bug out early, so I apologize to everybody. Had a previous commitment for this evening that I have to get ready for. So, real quickly, I know you're gonna get down to, probably, looking at number 4 on old business, about data collection. Just to give you an update, this past weekend, just the marine operations for the police department, not counting the fire department, because they have a lot more hours than we do put into that boat when it goes out, but just out on the water enforcement time, 4 hours on Saturday, 4 hours on Sunday. Monday it didn't go out because of the weather, thunderstorms and stuff. And with that said, there were 13 safety checks done over the weekend. 1 contact for weight violations. So there was 14 total contacts, 2 warnings.
Okay, so both, there was just warnings were issued, no
Yeah.
citations?
Yeah.
Were there accidents? Reported?
Nope.
So we had a warning due to the capacity, and what was the other warning?
No, there was a warning for one of the safety checks and
Oh, okay,
a weight
just-
violation. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, and then that incident on Clear Creek is being handled by Parks and Wildlife?
From 2 weekends ago?
Yes.
Yes, yeah, boat accident, handled, fire department and police department were initially out there, but we called in, Parks and Wildlife, they have the expertise and time to handle it better than we do.
Okay, they were able to refloat the boat, or they get trailered out?
They trailered it out, yeah.
Yeah, I
That-
saw
it was,
that.
Tuesday? Tuesday or Wednesday? Wednesday. Anyhow, yeah, and that was, they had to go through Parks and Wildlife and then with, Towboat US took care of it, and, but yeah. So they're handling everything. There were no charges initially filed, so they're completing their investigation, they'll make that determination.
Okay. Yeah, I think the initial that we're hearing is that it was most likely mechanical failure, is what we're hearing.
That was, yeah, that's,
No,
leave that up
no serious injuries that we know of or anything.
I think everybody's been released from the hospital again, I know there were two that went by private auto to the, hospital, and I know one of them was there for a day or two, but, I think they're out, I think they were out.
Address what I saw.
It doesn't, I mean, we have no.
It's not your deal.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So I was,
I would probably,
not.
yeah, I would probably,
Okay.
yeah. I just leave it go if it's being handled by Parks and Wildlife.
Okay.
I'm sure Parks and Wildlife will issue a report at some point.
Yeah.
So what I can tell you is I was at the park. I go to the park every night. It's required. I watch crazy stuff happen. Crazy stuff happen. People are being disrespectful. Just pulling people on tubes. And they're zipping by each other. It's a blind bend through there. And I mean, I'm surprised that person, nobody got killed. Because you can't see who's coming around the corner. So I first heard about it, the volunteer fire department was standing down the ramp. They told me what had happened, so I'll leave it from there.
And speaking of the volunteer fire department, Chief George?
I don't have really many comments. We're spending a lot of time. It's marine season. I think we've got over 180 hours, 180 man hours into this. Not just patrols, but helping with the buoys, training, working on the boat. So it's busy.
You're making 9 hours so far.
And on calls. I had a couple calls too. So rescued a kayaker.
You say you rescued a kayaker?
Yes. And we also responded to that call. That's just in the last 2 weeks.
You said you had how many calls did we gone
We run 2 calls.
Two calls this season. So.
Since, like in the last 2 weeks.
When was the kayak rescue?
Kayak was going down, we went and got him out of the water, and then we retrieved the kayak, and this was at night, so it was nighttime operations. So, we returned the kayaker back to him, and that was it.
Whereabouts was the kayak?
Behind him.
Okay.
By the Hilton, you said?
Behind him.
Okay.
Started downflooding a little bit.
We got a call that the kayak had sunk and that he was in the water. We were able to get him out of the water and retrieve the kayak.
Great work.
That's all I got.
And we had, that prior weekend, we had the boat in the water for 2.5 hours on, one day. It was actually before our start and time for, but we put the boat out, and the boat had just come out of the water. I think,
What do you mean, just put back in the water?
we had taken it out of the water before the accident. They were on the boat.
Oh, yeah.
They were on
Right,
that boat that
right,
afternoon,
right.
and they'd taken it out of the water,
Well,
shortly before the, yeah,
So this season we're up to what, 10 and a half, 11?
10.5 hours.
10 and a half hours.
Take it out of the water, I'm thinking like physically.
Oh, yeah, no,
So
take
it's
it
back to the dock.
Yeah, it's back in the dock, I'm sorry.
So I want to follow up on a comment that I made, just to bring clarity to it. So I asked a couple of people at the dog park about what they saw. So many people have seen accidents down there at the dog park. I mean, people I just run into, and we sit there and we watch it's an entertainment show watching all these people coming around that kayak. When I went to city council last month, I mentioned that I was disappointed that our group was making decisions without all the full information. Thankfully, Chief Cromie went out and got more information from Texas Parks and Wildlife and U.S. Coast Guard, what accidents that had happened around that lake, around the creek in particular. And a lot of stuff happens down there because it's just a wild zone through there. And we have have no aids to navigation in there? Nothing?
Well, the information we got from Parks and Wildlife for the last 2 years, their reported, their reports for the state show only, 2 incidents, 1 incident for the 2 years that they can attribute to Clear Creek. Yeah.
But that's just higher run of the creek. It
Yeah,
doesn't give
it doesn't-
specific,
it
it doesn't say if
doesn't-
it's on our side of the bridge or above the
It
bridge.
doesn't identify where it was, but there was only 1 incident, there was no injuries or fatalities or anything. So, yeah, and the Coast Guard had, when I talked to them, the gentleman that's in charge of their management waterways, I can't think of his name off the top of my head. But he said that the Coast Guard had, as far as aids to navigation put out there, they had no incidents or anything to show a need for them to get involved, so, yeah.
So I've been doing this many, many
Comments on-
years, and, so there's been 3 times where there's been an accident where that boat had gone up the other day. That one, there was a cigarette boat that went up on the grass behind the Public Works plant, and then there was another wreck on the other side of the creek, on the League City side, and that was a fatality. Those are the only 3 wrecks I know of in that area. When you're coming back around where the dog park is on that curve, we've had one about 2 years ago that was pretty bad. We had the one where the guy threw his kids up on the rocks. And
Right.
we had one about 25 years ago where we had 10 patients and we had a double life flight. We also have one other incident out there on a jet ski. Those are the only accidents that I've heard about or worked with in the last 30 plus years.
Factor in the number of boats that have transited that area over that span of time. I mean, while yes, obviously serious, when the accidents do happen, they seem to be pretty serious. The instance of accidents is.
So I was talking to the former parks director the other day, Roscoe Lee. And Roscoe and I were talking about something else. And I said, Roscoe, I said, when you put up that ramp, did you ever put up a no wake zone, no wake zone sign? He said they did. So Roscoe had installed a no wake zone sign right along where that ramp is.
Sorry, what, are you talking about the kayak launch?
Huh?
You talking about the kayak launch?
Yeah. So they
Because here's the thing, because, well, the city ordinances state that if you're within 50 feet of a piling, another vessel that's anchored, swimmers, or any kind of dock structure, you have to maintain, basically bare steerage.
Yeah,
You know,
no.
minimum headway, which is essentially for that zone,
Yes.
a no wake,
Yes.
but it's only within that 50 feet.
So-
Technically, if you're 51 feet,
Let me complete my sentence. Let me complete my sentence. So Roscoe had said he put that sign up there, no wake zone, and it's gone. So that is a statement that came out of the public, the Parks and Wildlife put that up years ago. Now, why they took it down, why it got removed, maybe a storm, who knows?
so Parks and Wildlife put that
No,
sign
no,
up, or
the-
Parks Committee?
The Nassau Parks Committee, run by Roscoe Lee.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't remember that, so it could have,
Yeah.
maybe, but I know we hadn't removed anything, but I hadn't seen that.
Well, I can believe that. I mean,
Yeah.
you've only been here 15 years, right? I mean, it could have happened before
Yeah,
you were
yeah,
gone.
yeah.
And as a guy that's a boater, I didn't know about those rules until I started doing paddling events. And I realized then, after I started doing some investigation, and we talked about this before, those are blind bends through there. You cannot see who's coming around the corner. So the blind bend, what are you supposed to do? I mean, you're a certified skipper, what are you
Yeah,
supposed to do?
if he's blind bend, you've got to sound one for one blast.
Okay, got sunglasses, and you're also supposed to slow down. So I sit there at that dog park, and I watch boats coming by there, like Chief was talking about, just flying by there, not regarded to any of that stuff. And there's no wake zones there. We ought to have no wake zones, no wake zones out there, let people know what they're supposed to do, like you said, honk a horn, make it sound, they don't do it.
No, all we can do, because again, in order to be able to establish anything, the amount of, say, red tape essentially, is we'd have to go through the state. Then we'd have to have an interlocal agreement with League City, Galveston County.
Why?
Why? Because we don't own that stretch of, we don't physically own the water.
Okay,
We own the code, that's zone residential, we annex that, that's ours.
Well, we put buoys up in Cow Bayou. Cow Bayou is shared with us and who?
Cow Bayou is ours.
No, it's not.
On the north side, once you come around the corner,
It's not. On the west side, it's ours. On the west side, it's Webster. On our side, the east side it's Nassau Bay.
the Webster side's not even navigable.
But it is. It is. Pete's Road came in and talked about jet skis hauling butt through there.
On the east side.
But
that's
it's
right.
still navigable water. You think a jet ski
On
takes
our
this
side.
much water?
Yeah, on our side, it's navigable, the other side, it's shoaled in.
But it's still navigable water for jet skis.
And the city's already got approvals, you know, for those for that specific no wake zone. That's been established now for at least 20+ years. That's been there, that's established, and we can go back into the ordinances and actually see the date that was created.
Well, I'd like to see it.
Yeah,
I'd like to see it.
what I'll do is when I get a chance, I'll go in, I'll pull the ordinances, because it actually, each ordinance has a date that it was recorded.
So then, I guess the question is, do we have to go to Lake City and start talking to them about getting them to put up signs?
Well, I need to go back and look at the information that we got from, that I got from the gentleman, I shared it with the committee the last time. The water ordinance, and, has to be approved by Coast Guard, but it's gotta be approved by everybody who has jurisdiction over there, which is League City, us, Galveston County, Harris County, the state.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, Lieutenant Brunswick, Lieutenant Brunswick, he's the Waterways Management Division. So, and that was the discussion that we had, I think, meeting before last, because I wasn't here.
Yeah.
And that's when the committee made the decision, so,
Made what decision? I missed that.
the committee,
That was the one we were discussing, the potential for the no wake over there where the kayak launches.
yeah.
Remember that meeting?
But,
was,
okay,
2 months
but that
ago?
naturally should be a no-wake zone anyway, so it's not being enforced. So how do we get somebody to enforce that?
Well, the no wake, the current no wake zone starts at the confluence of Clear Creek and Cal and runs north towards Nassau Road 1. That is the no wake zone. That's the long-established no wake zone. Everything coming through the creek is not no wake.
I don't understand what you mean. Is there any chance to pull up a drawing on that, Paul? Is that something we?
Yeah, I can bring up the map.
Basically, the no wake zone as it stands, zone starts right past the dam area.
The what?
The dam.
What dam?
Nassau, Lake
The
Nassau.
spillway.
It's
Spillway.
Spillway, okay, let's
Yeah.
get it from, it's spillway.
That no wake zone is just past that right now is where it starts. So the
Going
area
south,
that
or
you're-
going towards the bridge?
Going
Or
toward-
north?
The area that you're talking about right now, what Brian's saying, is not currently in the no wake zone. So that would have to be made no wake. Right now, it starts, again, just past the bridge and then goes into, just past the spillway, and then goes into Cal Bayou. And then it's the full Cal Bayou past the marina, all the way to Nassau Road 1.
So again, it comes down to enforcement. It's so hard. I mean, I know we're limited in terms of resources, but I'd like to see more boats down there once in a while. I don't know how we can make that happen.
Well, the boat's out.
I mean, I
Doing
talked about-
enforcement on the weekends, and our direction has been to, prioritize the cove, because that's where all the boats at, but you're talking about in the evenings and at night, and we just don't have a full-time marine division.
I know
out
that.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
our boat can only go to the marina, it can't go back. Like, when we went out there to work on the 4 buoys that are located between the intersection to the marina behind, Pete's house.
Yeah, two
There are 4 no wake buoys. Well, actually, 2 no wake buoys and 2 signs. The sign that's just past the marina, we were in the mud to get to it, so our boat's not going any farther north.
Yeah.
You got to go the right time of the year, and hug the shoreline.
And I'll, I'm not justifying anything, but I'll enforcement there, when there's boats coming around, and I'm not out there all the time, but it's not every single boat that comes around there that's curves at those speeds and causing a problem. And, you know, just like, you know, cars on the streets here. We would all love to be able to, you know, the citizens and the police department to be everywhere that there's a violation occurring. But we just can't be everywhere all the time. So enforcement, you know, once we, you know, again, it kind of goes back to the data that we've got from Parks and Wildlife and Coast Guard, that they just don't see that many incidents occurring, to bring it to their attention, so.
Well, and I think the reality is, what would you enforce? I mean, that's we're saying, it's not no wing, right? So you can't enforce speed. So
Yeah.
you'd have to subjectively see reckless behavior and try to, that's the term, what would you enforce?
Yeah.
So our ordinances allow enforcement of the NAP. It
Yeah.
specifically states in the, you know, that the inland rules, the inland navigation rules can be enforced by Nassau Bay PD. So maintaining, proper speed, you know, safe speed, Rule 6, that's something they can enforce. Blind bend signal, something they can enforce. But you're, you know, the practicality of that is,
Right.
Yeah, very, and yeah.
Is what?
it's not practical.
Well, the feasibility of having somebody be able to be out there, because the personnel we're utilizing for the enforcement on both are the same people, are the same officers who would be, you know, our patrol officers. We have 12 patrol officers, including 2 sergeants, and 2 corporals, and 8 officers that work as patrol 24 hours, 7 days a week around the clock. When I have everybody here working, nobody's homesick, nobody's off at training, all my positions are filled, everybody is on duty. I only have 2.8 officers for every hour.
Wow.
So.
Not a lot.
No. That's why, you know, during the season, on the weekends when we put officers on the boat, that's why we partner up with the fire department, because they're piloting the boat, they're operating the boat, we're doing enforcement. Those officers are actually out there on overtime. So, again, it's a feasibility issue.
So anyways, we can get back to this as part of the old business or one of the subcommittee discussions while Paul's still kind of milling around getting things set up. Let's finish up with the committee member reports real fast.
I don't have anything.
What were you, I missed that, what were your,
I don't have anything new.
what were you supposed
Last
to
meeting,
do?
we talked about guardrails as one item for discussion. We finished that.
So what did, help me out, what did we finish? What did we finish? Who did we contact with?
For the court grant?
I'm asking, you know, yes, who did we talk to?
I think the only action out of the last meeting regarding the code report, Brad, is we said we put some notice on the website.
Website.
Yeah.
Website.
But I thought we were gonna try to plant some progress or get a hold of,
No, it's the website.
Yeah, it was just
The website?
a notification about it.
Kind of points out.
That was all that was brought up.
Yeah, 'cause that's,
Oh, this will be better.
all right.
okay.
There we go.
Trust me, the chair, we're all in trouble now.
The chair. Like that. There.
We're not class or what?
This will be very fun.
Okay. So this is what we're referring to as what I refer to as the confluence of Cow Bayou and Clear Creek. This is where they
But
both,
what confluence means what?
confluence is where they both come together.
Okay.
So, of course, Creek comes up here, Cow Bayou runs up there, and then we kind of jointly refer to this as the Creek and Bayou, depending on how,
Well, it is.
depending on who wants to, you know, depending on whose perspective is being.
But that is the Clear Creek, so on the
Yes.
east side of that peninsula is Clear Creek. Going up to
Yeah.
that's
But there's
Clear
also
Creek.
folks who refer to this, so this is also referred to as Cow Bayou / Clear Creek. And then from here up, it's just Cow Bayou.
That is
From
not-
here and
where-
out,
Where did you see that ever referred to as, that area referred to as Cow Bayou?
I've seen a lot of people refer to this as both.
But it's not.
But can be referred to as both. That's why creek/bayou here. Only the bayou, only the creek. But either way, confluence is right here. The no-wake zone starts at the spillway, which is about, give or take, about right in here. So, and then continues up, all the way up through here. Like I said, we've got, what, 2 buoys down and 2 sets of signs?
Two signs and 2 buoys.
4 signs. And that runs all the way up here past Pete's house and all that.
Hey, Brian, it does say Cal Bayou, what you was talking about, see it on Google?
Yeah.
It says Cal Bayou.
Right as you come around the corner.
Yeah.
Still Cal Bayou, and then
Yeah.
by the time you get down here, it says the creek. So again, the existing ordinance established that no-wake zone, you know, through all their proper channels and everything, so 25 plus years ago at least. That established all this, because again, you're also within 50 feet of a home, residential docks and all that as you're coming up here, so it essentially makes it a no-wake zone anyways.
I mean, and what you're talking about is the navigable channel.
Yes.
Is within 50 feet of it's all the way up to the bulkhead, and then it's probably 50 feet wide.
Yeah, and then you've got, you know, the individual posts and pilings for everything, and again, the navigable channel is very limited, very narrow.
Right.
So, did we put a buoy over there? A new buoy?
There's 2 buoys over there.
Did we put one up?
Yeah, there's a new buoy right abreast of Davon. I saw that this morning when I got home. And then the other buoy should be
Right behind Pete's house.
by the marina.
It's up by Pete's house.
Okay, it's up, the other buoy's up by Pete's.
That's the one I was telling you, we're in the mud putting in place.
Okay. So we got 2 new buoys there. Like I said, I know that I saw the one on Davon as I was turning, I looked out and saw the brand new, very nice job on those buoys.
Yeah.
Couple are tipped over already. They're already tipped over.
I think we went out and fixed those. That's what we did, we went out.
Yeah, they were in, when they installed them, they were kind of listing over, and then they added some extra weight, I believe.
I just saw them Sunday.
You may have seen them in the old ones, huh? The old ones are still tipped over.
Yeah, I'll double check them.
Well, one of them was faded, so it must have been there a long time.
Yeah.
It was really faded.
The ones that, the existing ones down at the, again, right past the spillway, those are the older ones, and they are laid over, but all the newer ones that I've seen are standing up.
Okay, great. All right, so let's continue with the committee member reports, and then we can get on to the ATONs.
Okay.
Jason?
My observations from Upper Bay is that, I think that the new buoys certainly had effect. I'd be interested to hear what y'all saw in water, but, I think I saw pretty good adherence to the no wake through Nassau Bay. I mean, what I'm seeing right now is most boats are still up on plane coming through the channel,
Right.
peninsula, and then when they see that buoy, for the most part, I don't know, 85% of the time, they're coming down and paying attention. There's still some that are coming through boats, some boats coming through, and then probably the worst offenders, if you will, still are jet skis. Those are the ones that are still kind of plowing through there, you know. But I think that's probably pretty positive for the impact of just sitting out buoys. And then from there, I think it's enforcement, so.
I think it's probably consistent with what they saw this weekend,
Yeah.
1 week violation. While you're out.
Yeah.
So,
Of course, obviously, you know, people are gonna, if they see the boat out there.
Yeah,
Of course. But, yeah, I think that's probably consistent with what they,
Exactly, they're saying it's the jet skis, and now people are, instead of coming through the canal, they're actually cutting across what we call the flats.
where's that?
Which brings its own dangers.
Feed to the east, yeah, come down to where the channel
yes,
is.
yes.
Instead of going straight down the channel, they're coming across,
Right,
just
right.
like that.
Yeah, jet skis particularly. because
Yeah,
they're
jet skis are
shallow
the biggest
through there.
violators.
Very shallow.
Now, we do want to remove the old buoys, right?
Yeah, I would say get, you know, as we're replacing, so
Yeah.
we're supposed to be essentially upgrading.
Yeah, okay.
We're gonna straighten up those poles too that are leaned over.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And what's the status on the?
On signs, yeah, so, I called I was calling and texting my rep. She is no longer with the company, so I talked to the president. He did apologize, did put a rush. We did, receive the big 4x8 marine signs. We have them at the shop. We did receive 10 of the no wake signs, and we may get all the other ones in by tomorrow. And so, yeah, so we've, did it come in today?
Not today.
Not today, but so he was trying to get it in by the end of the week, first of the week, and then Elias is working with towboats, with PIP, Towboat USA to get the rest out. And then I'll be, working probably with Payne Brothers to get the new pylons installed. So hopefully, maybe next week, maybe, we got a priority on it.
Yeah, so my only comment is I think that, the boos look great, they did a good job, and I think that we're seeing positive impact from them so far.
So it's kind of funny about those jet skis, because I watched them last week, and I went out on Sunday, which was a crazy day. I think you guys just brought your patrol boat out. And what the jet skis, they'll go beyond where the channel is, and like where the chief was saying, and they'll go way out, and they'll still create a wake coming in. Because those things, they create a heck of a wake when they're going 50, 60 miles an hour.
Yeah, they're.
But they just, they're very ignorant when it comes down to the rules, they don't care, or don't know.
Or don't care.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it, Chief, thank you. Paul, anything to, for your member report?
Hey, make sure your safety
Signs,
guys
buoys.
are being not talking.
No, we are, also putting a rush on the repairs on the finger piers. And then, we can put signage out there and lights and all that stuff.
Okay, so the city did officially sign it,
Yes.
sign, seal, delivered, we've got the finger piercing?
Yes, yes, and I think Elias was trying to get a crew there next week?
Next week.
Yeah, next week.
People on vacation this week, so yeah, we'll do that next week.
Herb?
Hey, I mean, all my thunder was, stolen as far as the look of the buoys. I mean, they're beautiful. Probably a little piece of it is because, yeah, aesthetically they look great and the functional, they serve the purpose. But also it's the result of some of the work that we've done here. So when I see it, I see like a little baby there, kind of thing. So I feel really good about that. And just simple, observing, coming through the channel into the cove, and like that first, excuse me, no wake sign. I see more people just really, seems like you have to go by it. So I was just sitting there for about an hour and a half, and yeah, some people pretty much go by it, don't see it, but you can see them just kind of cutting the engine. So I think it goes back to the comments from pretty much when we first started, which was, excuse me, how important the signage is that if they see it and read it, they're likely to do it, but if there's nothing there, they're likely to do whatever they want. So I think we're just seeing some of the fruits of our labor and how important signage is. So I'm excited to see the result of that. It's low hanging fruit, but it does quite a bit. And I was going to ask about the finger piers, so.
And I was also able to change the, I think we had, either $500 or $1,000 fines, and I was able to change it to $2,000.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, Chief said we could go up to $2,000, so it is on it.
What is that for, Bob? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
$2,000 violation, up to $2,000.
For like no wake or something?
Yep, all the way up to, yeah, we wanted to put the max to scare them.
Yeah, because that is, I believe, in the ordinance here, it specifically states 2,000 is the max.
And then, has anybody able to see how the beacons are working? I haven't seen
Correct.
at night?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, no, it
It works
they
sometimes,
cut in.
sometimes not. Like you talk about the northern part of the peninsula.
Well, I should say, on the new buoys.
Yes, new buoys.
They're working fine, as
Okay.
far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know about, I haven't necessarily paid attention to the pilings out there. I mean, I see them blinking all the time, but it may not be
Yeah.
consistent. But
See 'em
the
go-
buoys are part of the problem.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, and I'll just throw my comments in real quick. It's gonna kind of tag in a little bit to the aids to navigation. But I was talking to Keith Gibson we do need to make sure that, I guess there are some signs, in the established no wake zones going into the canals in Swan Lagoon, Bal Harbor, that are kind of in disrepair, missing, faded, destroyed. We do need to make sure that we get those replaced as well, because those are in the established no wake zones. As you come into Swan Lagoon, Bal Harbor.
Yeah, we have, I believe it's an additional 22.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're all, every one of the signs are being,
Okay, so.
yeah. I think I spent right about $3,500, $4,000.
Yeah, he just asked to make sure that we
Yeah.
definitely make sure that that's included in everything. Chris Wilkie had done some yeoman's work for us the last few weekends with drone video and pictures and stuff of the code, and I'll give that as part of our census data. But he did mention, from his observations from where he is over here, that he did mention that people coming in, for the most part, seem to be observing the no wake pretty well as they're coming in. On the way out, on the other hand, is a different story.
Yep.
So we need to make sure that we've got, when we do get the signage out there, that we're kind of making sure that it's visible both ways. Either people are just kind of getting in a rush, getting out of there, they've come in, they've enjoyed themselves for a few hours, and they, it slips their mind that, that it was a no wake on the way in, so it should be no wake on the way out. And again, they're observing it within here. It's just once they kind of get up here and they hit it to get out,
And I don't think, currently, any of the no wake signs are facing outbound.
correct, yeah, so we just need to make sure that we've got at least a set facing, facing towards the west.
Well, I think we should have them on both sides.
We did, that's what we talked, so
Okay.
the entry
Can't hear.
pilings and then the middle pilings in that count table, we talked about both sides on those, so it's,
So we're talking both sides, right?
yeah.
Okay.
And there's been some discussion on some of the social media pages, in particular, where there's one that's for, that they call party code. Folks are, for the most part, seem to be pretty positive about, the more calm activities in there. There was a gentleman a few weeks ago with the 42 Carver that tried to anchor, that slipped his anchor and then just had trouble negotiating his vessel around.
Now, he's the one that hit the other boat, right?
Yeah, he hit another gentleman's boat and damaged his bending or something.
Yeah.
But anyways, outside of that, the cove has actually been pretty calm. There was a little bit, of course, discussion as now that people are seeing, again, it's informing and educating is what we can do from our committee, on the rules. People are now suddenly seeing, 55 decibel noise ordinance. That's, of course, been on the books for a dog's age, zoned residential. And there's been obviously some social media pushback on that, but that is the city ordinance. And again, that's not 55 decibels at the source. It's 55 decibels once it hits the nearest residential property line.
Doesn't it say from your vessel?
No, so the ordinance, the way the noise ordinance reads, that it's from when it reaches the property line. Because the noise ordinance itself references the city's noise ordinance, which, again, you can be talking at, say, 60 decibels, and yes, you'd be in violation if you were talking at 60 decibels, at someone's property line. But again, sound deadens as it travels. It doesn't deaden as readily over water, and of course, there's nothing obstructing it, so it carries. It doesn't reduce as well. But it has to be at 55, measured at 55 once it hits the adjacent property line.
Oh, okay.
So you can have music going at your house, as long as it's 55 or lower, by the time it hits your neighbors, you're not in violation of it.
So it's funny about the anchorage out there. A lot of people do not know how muddy the bottom is. So they think they'll throw out one anchor and it'll have a mud bottom. But it doesn't grab onto anything. You know, a little bit of light wind, like that Carver, it's got a lot of freeboard.
Yep.
And it doesn't take much to move that Carver.
No, it doesn't. It does.
Huh?
God said it sure doesn't.
Doesn't take.
So people should be
Doesn't take much.
throwing out two anchors.
maybe that's, maybe a little piece of advice that we throw on the website.
But
We can add that.
But, you know, I think we're relying too much on the website, so, did we get a chance, Chief, to hand out any of those nice little koozies?
I don't know where they're at.
Okay.
We might be out.
We'll check,
Waiting on
yeah.
them.
But we, you know, we have a centralized source for information, and then we will eventually be able to get pamphlets, brochures, and we'll find a way to get that distributed to folks,
Right.
as best we can.
And I think too, once somebody starts handing out $2,000 fines, the word will get out to that boating community. To slow down. I mean, just get a couple good fines like that, and people will get the message.
Yeah, and many times, just presence alone, I mean, just watching, leading up to Memorial Day, seeing the authorities out there, people started driving very slowly or navigating past someone who got pulled over. As soon as they hit the mark, bam, they got out of there. I mean, just presence alone, it helps out quite a bit.
The other day, I was there and we were gonna go and have lunch at Santa, or one of the restaurants. So we started heading across, I had a couple teenagers with me, mom and dad, or grandparents, and my motor died. And I looked behind me, I said, and my motor usually doesn't die, so I thought it sucked up mud. But then a big old carver came by me, I had my anchor out, asked him to slow down, he did not give a damn. I mean, he just moved, went by me like I wasn't there. I said, one thing about California, and I don't think we can regulate that, in California, when you have a skier in the water, the skier goes down, the observer's supposed to hold up a red flag, and the person in the other boat's supposed to hold up a red flag, they acknowledge each other. That's the way they do it out there, supposedly. But that's, you know,
I think, I mean, it's just an observation, not a comment, it's not even, no judgment, like, at all. But it sounds like you're really concerned about, like, maybe, attitudes and things that are really difficult to enforce. Attitudes and, I guess, courtesies, if you will, you know, and those are very important. But I think it's something that's, it's great for conversation, but I think it's something that's really hard to, one, enforce, and two, to provide enough signage for people who are not courteous. So it's just, again, it's just my conversation on one here.
All right, but in any ways, we're 40 minutes in, and we're just now finishing the subcommittee reports, so let's kind of continue on. So jumping into the subcommittee reports for the aids to navigation, I know we've already touched on a good chunk of it, in the committee reports. Do we have anything additional to add? Jason, Jeff, Jim, anyone?
Not mine.
just we need more, that's my advice. We
Yeah,
need more.
and they're working on what we can get out and all that, so, all right. Old business, consideration, possible action to approve the minutes of the April 22nd meeting. I was hoping we would have those ready by now, but I guess the holiday and everything kind of got in the way. So we'll table that we'll approve that and this meeting at our next one. I'll move that knocks that one down. Member update and discussion signs and aids to navigation regarding Cow Bayou, Swan Lagoon, Bell Harbor. We kind of already touched on all that to make sure we've got signs covered there. We've already got the signs. We were able to get the signs in Cow Bayou. Are they on both sides of the pilings or just on the one?
Just one on one side.
Okay. I think we still need to look at least getting one outbounder.
Okay.
So,
We had talked about it the previous week. Let's not send the police fire boat up there, that's not. Unless it's an extreme high tide.
well, we have a jet ski too, though, don't we?
Yes, we have a jet ski and we have 2 inflatables.
So we have more equipment than just one.
Yeah, but
But
it's
you're not
super,
carrying-
super tough,
you're
it's
not
super
carrying
hard
solid
to,
on.
Huh?
yeah, it's super hard to work on a jet ski.
Work
Trying
on
to-
a jet ski.
Yeah, trying to put up a sign.
Oh, no, I don't need
Yeah,
that.
okay, okay.
I'm talking about show of force. I'm not talking about
Okay,
that sign.
okay.
No, don't want that to happen.
So, all right, up next is consideration of possible action regarding communications, update regarding committee webpage, what information to display, an update on the status of the committee email. So I know we had discussed getting a committee email set up. I guess, who do we need to talk to? Is that Sherry now, or do we need?
Yeah, let me follow up with Sherry, because, yeah, she, the holidays and everything.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
And then-
yeah, we'll still work on that.
And then I had reached out to her to get the voting page updated with stuff that we discussed last meeting, getting the tides, whether the gauge height at the Highway 270 bridge. There is a Harris County has a gauge height there. That'll tell you the flood level. It'll also, interestingly enough, that same particular instance, when you open up for that particular page, it'll also tell you what the gauge height is in Lake Nassau. So if you're ever curious as to how Lake Nassau is looking.
I'm sorry, do what again?
So on Harris County's floodplain management page, where it gives you all the gauge heights, when you click on the one for 270, Egbert's Bay, it'll also,
Beaver Bay Bridge,
yeah, it'll
Okay.
also give you the gauge height for Lake Nassau.
Right.
Yes. So if you're ever curious as to what Lake Nassau is looking like, it puts it in there, and we can put that information up. At least the hope is that Sherry will be able to just directly pull, that particular information and post it on there. Otherwise, we'll just have a direct link to that information.
Who's Sherry?
Communications.
Okay.
And then, member update discussion on data collection, reporting on census data, traffic activity in the code, including Memorial Day weekend activity. So Chief already gave us that they had 8 patrol hours, plus the setup and breakdown time, almost, figure that's about another 4 hours of work time minimum.
Over the weekend, we had 39 man hours.
39 man hours. And what's the physical time to?
So, it's on Friday, nothing. On Saturday, there was 12 hours. On Sunday, there were 25 hours. And then on Monday, there was 2 hours.
Monday was a relative wash.
And mainly
Yeah,
that was
literally.
just observing and seeing if things go out.
Yeah.
So is Sherry the person that put together the little diagram with there's some new stuff on the website, nassabay.com, really informative information. Talks about, shows pictures and how many police officers, how many hours were spent, goes through all the data.
Police department has their own Facebook, so it may be Tiffany, and then we also share it when Chief sends something out. So I don't, it could be Tiffany, or it could be Sherry.
Okay.
Yeah.
But somebody making nice little swirls, they say, spent this much time doing this and this much time doing that, gave us information that the chief gives our report, the chiefs give our report every city council meeting. But it was also on the website, I thought it was very informative.
It could be Tiffany.
Okay.
It could be Tiffany.
So anyways, regarding the census data on traffic and activity, Chris Wilkie has been phenomenal, getting his drone in the air a couple times a weekend. He's been sending me pictures, and I'll just go in there and I'll count the boats and whether or not, how many are rafted up, how many pairs or groupings we have.
What was the number, do you think, from this last weekend?
So I'm gonna go through the 4 days that he sent me data for. So May 4th, which was kind of getting things up and going. He took this at noon, and there was 16 boats with 3 sets of 2 that were rafted together, so a nice quiet weekend. May 10th had 8 boats out there. Didn't look like anybody was rafted together when he had sent his drone up. May 17th had 36 boats up with 4 rafting pairs. And then May 26th, Memorial Day, when he sent it up, there were 83 boats out there. There were over a dozen
26th?
on the 26th. This was before the weather hit.
80 something?
Sorry, boats? Sorry, he sent it on Monday. It was Sunday's date. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So there were 83 boats when he sent his drone up. There were over a dozen rafting groups. There was one group that consisted of 5, one that consisted of 6, and then there was one that did consist of what appeared to be 7, from what I could zoom in on.
What are the rules on that?
So rafting is no more than 6,
Okay.
and if you are rafted, you can only raft You have to be 100 yards or more from a residential property. And if you are rafted, you can't raft within 100 feet of another rafting pair.
Oh, okay.
That gives everyone room to swing
Swing, sure.
and everything. You know, creates a nice buffer. So for the most part, you can see in his pictures where our new no-wake buoys have gone in. And it looks like, for the most part, people are rafting, you know, in the correct zone using that visual aid.
Yeah.
There are a few who are kind of just a little bit to the west of the, you know, within the 100 yard, but you're not talking a whole, you know, they're not like 50 feet off. You know, you do have some folks who are rafting, you know, probably maybe 90 to 95 yards. It didn't look like anyone was egregiously, you know, inside the zone.
So real quick, back to, did you say 86 or 83?
83 boats on Sunday.
Okay, so is that a snapshot or?
Yeah,
over
so
time?
this was a picture that he took.
In the code.
Just
in
one
the
moment
code.
in time. 86.
One moment of time.
Holy crap.
Yeah. And it didn't even, I mean, it looked active, but it didn't look jam-packed.
I think during COVID, they were up to over 120 or something, wasn't it?
I'm sure. So definitely a good productive, weekend. Looks like they had a bunch of good vessel safety checks. Was Parks and Wildlife out, do we know?
Parks and Wildlife, I saw them and the Coast Guard, yeah, it was a park that was on Saturday at about 6:50. I saw Coast Guard leaving. At 7:05, I saw Parks and Wildlife going in.
Really?
But by that time, most people were there.
So,
They're down around the park hauling butt to get to the 270 ramp.
so yeah, so looks like we had a pretty good weekend. And it's only gonna get, you know, busier, more active now that school's out and whatnot.
So the 83 boats was on Sunday, May 25th.
Yes. And again, you know,
You have
huge.
pictures or data from Saturday?
He didn't, I'll have to see if he has any, he didn't send me any, I'll see if he.
So who gets the pictures, just you?
He's been sending them to me, and I'll send them out to the group. The pictures are so big that they don't really fit well into an email, that by the time you can actually compress it, it's not. So I gotta figure out how we can do a Dropbox or something.
Was he dropping off on a USB drive to you?
No, he's actually sending them through Facebook Messenger, and there's no compression.
Would those pictures be considered open record requests since the city has sponsored them to do that? I believe they might.
Probably.
Yeah, so we'll need to find a way to, you know, where we can get them, where I can get them sent to, so that we can.
So any picture or
Memorialize
video
it.
that he's taking falls under that
Yeah.
Falls on what you?
Yeah.
open records request. Because you guys have sanctioned him to do it as an official city operation.
I see.
It should be open to the public.
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna make a
And he does, and Chris, you know, also will publish a lot of his stuff up online. He'll put it in, you know, he'll have his little drone videos and stuff. He likes flying.
So I make a comment, okay, I'll just make a comment. So 2 weeks ago, there's a lady in our church that organizes dragon boats. So these are, your wife came and participated, that was kind of fun, wasn't it? So they brought out the dragon boat, they launched it from the 270 bridge, brought it into Cow Isle. And these are double-seated canoes that have 20 people in them. And they practice paddling, and they're serious about their paddling. So they use Cow Isle and paddle up and down Kyle Isle, and they compete all over the country. Put a dragon head on the front of the boat, and these gals get going. I mean, they travel all over, and there's a breast cancer or cancer awareness group. And they work out hard. So it's kind of neat.
All right, so new business, and this is consideration and possible action regarding conducting a boating survey, discussion regarding a survey to receive feedback regarding issues in the code. This is something that we can just kind of start spitballing now, because we do want to, you know, at the end of the day, we do want to canvass, you know, everyone to see, okay, what are their concerns in the cove? let's reach out to the residents, ones living there, ones utilizing the cove, and the waterways to see what are their concerns. So this is just to kind of get that out there, that something we want to start looking into doing, how we want to administer the survey, what questions we want to ask, what data we're looking to ascertain, whether or not their concerns are speed issues, overcrowding, noise. That's probably going to be more of a resident concern for folks living along the canals and the cove. And of course, it could be concern of folks who are wanting to generate one. But we want to kind of see, and also see what kind of activities people are looking to engage in. Is there an area that we might be able to encourage certain activities to occur in, say, jet skiing or rafting, towing, for those the little pull boats, put the kids on the inner tubes and whip them around. Things that we can look at, as we go forward. So, this is literally just a blank canvas right now, so let's take a look at it.
So monkey survey put out to all the residents, just come up with topics.
Yeah, and then we'll just kind of see, okay, these are the concerns, these are the activities that folks want to engage in. Water skiing used to be a huge thing here. I think they're even, I saw the.
Can be.
Well, there was that one video that someone had put out.
Can be put it out.
Yeah, they found the original advertisement video for it.
Pretty cool, actually.
And there was I guess there was a jet ski ramp, not jet ski, but a water skiing ramp somewhere by Upper Bay, it looked like.
No, it was right up where Jason lives, right up in that area right there.
Okay, so it was a little further down.
By the Sapphire, or what do they call that park now?
Okay, so it was that way.
So it's on the Nassau Bay website, so it's put out by a group called Canby Citizens. Give it a look at it. It's pretty neat. It goes back to 1965 when they were developing Nassau Bay.
I'd be interested on the poll just to see how many residents actually utilize the water in one way or another.
Yeah.
I think that'd be interesting to see and see how we can maybe increase that.
Okay. So resolution. Survey.
So what do
See
we
if they're
think?
residents versus non-resident use, and
Yeah, so you're talking about this as just a resident survey, or you're gonna try to get it out broader than that?
well, I think it's going to wind up getting out broader regardless.
Yeah, typically on a monkey survey it will.
And I don't
So
see.
yeah, you could have them, that'd be interesting as well, right? Of the people that answer the survey, what percentage are residents versus non?
Yeah.
And then we can look at that compared to what type of activity they're doing and see if there's a opportunity to improve that.
Activity. Current concerns. We can come up with topics for,
Yeah.
click all that apply or something along those lines.
Chair, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
I think somebody mentioned a while back talking about, I think this kind of falls into what Jeff was talking about doing about, the erosion off the shoreline. I think Mark Denman or somebody mentioned that.
Salt grass, the marsh grass.
Yeah, and then the erosion, if you go around the Nassau Bay Peninsula on the east side, that area is still in pretty good shape, but, I think the, different groups have put in the core grass there before, actually came in and put in the core grass. Part of it's Galveston Bay Foundation, which has to be part of that. And so it's just something we need to look at in the future, because erosion of that water, we don't want the waterway getting eroded.
Yeah, I can reach out with Mark and the Dallas Bay Foundation on that. Get that going.
So it goes back to the surveys, so resident versus non-resident usage, current activities, current concerns, frequency of use.
Yeah.
coming in there once or twice a year, they, every weekend, you know. Kind of help us inform not only where to target our efforts in education and whatnot, but also can we encourage certain activities in certain areas?
Yeah, and their take also, like, you know, are there enough signs, are there enough movies,
Yeah.
are the markings clear?
Yeah,
Do you
just
feel safe
the
as a
general
voter?
marketing feedback.
Yeah, you feel safe as a voter?
So how are you thinking about, distributing the survey?
So,
Yeah, we can do a monthly survey. We just did one for the building department and police. And the assessment group, 65 North group did it, but we have done it before.
But do you send it out to people's email addresses?
Yeah, well, so there's different ways you can do it. Like on the building department, we got all the emails from contractors. We sent it out to 350 contractors. And then all the residents through the water bills. And I think through if they had an email. And then we also put out flyers at every apartment complex. And so that's how we did it. We targeted them everywhere.
Got it, okay.
You could generate a QR code for that, right? We could just
Yes,
scan it.
yes, yeah, and so, yeah.
So maybe we can, you know, put it on our website, make sure it's at, you know, we introduce that at future meetings, make sure it's on the newsletter. I mean, just a number of possibilities once we get it together. Something just like.
we can make sure the flyer gets down to the marinas,
Yeah.
Marina at Nassau Bay, Holmes Marina, the Harbor Marina.
Al Hubbard.
Yeah, Val Harbor Marina. Make sure that residents along the waterways, we have children with legs and hands, they can drop off stuff.
Well, you know, you talk about marketing.
Yeah, and of course, yeah, social media distribution as well.
Talk about marketing, that's right up my alley, but, you know, we've got, most of these voters come to Nassau Bay, don't live in Nassau Bay.
Yeah, well, so once a survey like that hits social media, you know, it'll be available for everyone, and that's why we're suggesting to have the resident versus non-resident. You know, you click, you live in Nassau Bay or you don't live in Nassau Bay. That way we can also see, hey, what percentage of folks that are using our code are, you know, that are at least participating in the survey.
Yeah, we could definitely start with, done too much with surveys, but we could definitely start with some very general, you know, demographic, like whether you're a resident or not, like we mentioned, like size of boat, or if you're are you a jet ski, or are you, you know, and then your size. I'm sorry. Demographic information that has a voter, right? So whatever that means to the committee.
I know the biggest thing that I'm hearing from the people that I know that vote, and my daughter's college friends, they all vote, and everything, they said, are y'all trying to change Nassau Bay? Because it was a destination for water skiing, having fun, and it seems like now you're trying to change it to, don't come here, don't. And so that is one of the concerns that I keep hearing, is like, what are y'all trying to do? So I think we really need to tailor the survey is what is the end game of what we want?
Yeah.
Because that's what everybody's asking me, what are y'all trying to do? I mean, just, do we stay away from Nassau Bay because it's no fun no more? But then also have people that go, hey, I'm thinking about moving to Nassau Bay, but I have a boat, but now the enforcement's gonna be high. So those are just the different, and I think it's fair.
Yeah.
I think it's fair. What do we want to portray this, you know, do we tell people that have boats stay away, or come in but behave, or?
Yeah,
You know, so I think the message has to be very clear, you know?
It has
So
to be
we can
about
honest.
safety, it has to be about safety.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Come in, you know, enjoy yourself, avail yourself of, you know, everything we have to offer, but do it in a safe, respectable manner. wanna come in and just, create chaos, we don't want that. I mean, nobody wants that done in any way.
Yeah, I think, I hear what you're saying. I think it would be important, maybe for us to have some ongoing messaging, clarifying, what we do. We're not like maritime enforcement. But what I do believe, thank you, is that with anything that grows, anything that increases in volume, to include a small town, to include traffic on the road, safety becomes an issue primarily because of the volume. So from what I heard and why I joined the committee is, we have been incrementally seeing more activity, and we expect more activity with Margaritaville.
Yep.
So it's not a matter of we want to enforce things or we want to prevent fun. There's more, so we have to communicate more. We have to make sure that it remains safe. So I don't know what that messaging or our model or whatever looks or smells like, but I understand what you're talking about because we are more face forward, if you will, but not so much face forward with what our intent and purpose is. We know what it is, right? But we also have to display a certain type of purpose to all the voters to know that, just to let them know that, hey, this is still about fun and recreation and safety.
I work with the media group, the city has a media group that we work with, and maybe it'd be good to do like a YouTube video, very clear what we would do. Come to Nassau, they have fun, but, be safe and all that. Maybe it's something that we can talk about. They're very good media group. They're actually doing some drone work around the city to promote, tourism and economic development. Because that's the questions I get. What are y'all trying to do? Just want us out or want us in, or, it's very unclear.
And I think the best thing to do is to know what do people really want. A survey like this is gonna give us a lot more information. It's gonna connect us better with the regular average voter. To say, okay, hey, this is what people want. And this gives us the feedback, and then we can come up with whatever and then kick that to council and let them make the final determination as to, okay, is this feasible, is this not feasible? We can kind of go from there.
Because I work Kills and Wheels, Saturday and Sunday, and I'd say 65% of my conversations with people was wanting to move to Nassau Bay, but was asking about the vote. It's going all over social media.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
And again, with the exception of changing the no excessive to a no wake zone, in last year in the summer, there have been no changes in our ordinances in 15 years regarding the waterways. This is just getting the information out, and suddenly people are kind of shocked and surprised because things haven't been really enforced. They haven't been publicized. And so, it's kind of a little bit of a shock value, a shock factor to folks.
In checking on Paul's conversation, I remember doing that with a friend of mine who had him and his son had bought a Go Fast boat. He works on the water all the time. Great navigator, brings ships in and out. But anyway, him and his son bought a Go Fast boat. But the Go Fast boats do not come to the lagoon anymore. And they go down to Galveston.
There's still a lot of them that come into that thing. Oh, there's still a lot of them.
I know, but the group of them, they hang out, they go down to, Offutt Bayou.
Sandbar.
Well, there's still, there's some that you can hear. From when they leave, whatever, the,
Sammy G.
Road, what is now the,
Forest 95.
yeah, you can hear them all the way, they come the whole way, so. There's still a lot of, offshore, fast boat activity.
Yeah, but most of them are not coming here, in my opinion.
It's on my social media a lot, and I know the Facebook page for the code, Party Code, The only thing I've really heard specifically, of course, we're gonna get our webpage up on at some point, but is there a way to work with this existing, group? I don't know, I mean, it sounds like it's pretty active, this Facebook group, to somehow use that as a way to communicate?
Oh, yeah, man, we could definitely use that, but I think the group that everybody's talking about is, I think when Chief put the voting rules out, people started jumping on that and going, wow,
Got their attention.
that's a lot of, we
Yeah.
never had that before, and all of a sudden, you know.
And there were a lot of misconceptions
Yes.
and misinformation. I jumped in there to quell what I could. I know Mayor Johnson jumped in there. You know, he and I were kind of tag teaming things, at, 10, 11 o'clock at night, a couple weeks ago to kind of tamp down the concerns, you know.
So, Chief, can I ask you a question? I don't know if you have the answer to this, but, when you have a boating accident, is it always Parks and Wildlife that kind of takes over?
We are first responders,
Uh-huh.
and then the accident, and all the investigations.
Not to
When we make the scene, we make the phone call, now we have direct contact with them. They report the accident, and they send it to police. We hold the scene until they.
I see. Thank you.
All right, so, just real quick, like something like Survey Monkey, Paul, what does a survey run us?
Let me check into that, yeah, let me look into that.
Yeah, I mean, we don't
I
have
don't
to jump
think, I
on
don't think
anything
it's
just
very,
yet.
I don't think it's very expensive.
Okay.
I think for a few $100s, I don't think it's very expensive.
Okay. And then we don't have to rely on them to parse the data or anything, we get all that and we can interpret it however.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we get all the, we get all, as a matter of fact, I was reviewing with the assessment group, a couple weeks ago, and I was able to see all the comments on the building department, the police department. And so it's very, I mean, a lot of information, and you can see all the comments.
Okay, great. Awesome. All right, so we'll address that, next week, or not next week, but the next meeting, that we hold. So I guess, do we need a motion to entertain the survey itself? Or is this just kind of still the discussion brainstorming phase? I think it's just still considered discussion brainstorming phase.
I can probably come back with some information, cost and all that stuff.
And
So
then
many
we'll-
action items, you can come back with calls, and come back with proposed, survey questions next.
And then finalize it, and then we'll make the recommendation, or I'll find out if we need to get the council to do that, or if that's something that we can actually get as an actionable item out here versus recommendation. Give a fill on that. So the last thing we need to do, is consideration of possible action for next meeting for July. And we've got, let's see,
You're saying for July or June?
well, I don't get back off until, the 13th of July.
Okay.
And that gives time for, the next big event, because the city's really gonna
Yeah,
focus in
4th of
on
July,
4th of
yeah.
July festivities and all that. And that's on a Friday, so that's gonna be a pretty big weekend.
So what dates are you thinking?
Let's see, if I get back to 13th. How does Wednesday, the 16th, look?
Wednesday, the 16th of June?
July.
July.
I think I can probably swing.
Good here?
You're good?
I'm okay.
Okay, you're good?
I think so. We'll find out.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Herb, how you looking? Jason, figure you
I'm
can
gonna try
start
to
that?
get out of it.
So then for that, we'll need I'll entertain a motion to set that date.
Second.
July 16th.
Yeah, I have a motion to do
All right, so motion for 16th at 4 p.m. Okay,
Second, we have a motion?
second by Jeff.
It's the 16th of July on a Wednesday?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, all in favor? All right, any opposed? Sounds good. So the last thing we need then is motion to adjourn.
I move.
All right. We have a stuff, but
I feel better already. Should've told me.
And then Chief, I'll send you links, so basically all it does is it goes on to my,
I just sort of asked if they could see it.
good, yeah, oh yeah, they can.
Busy. Good, yeah.
No, it's, I mean, it's shared to, the actual link is shared to personal, private stuff, but it's available on YouTube.
Yeah, like, if you see it, I appreciate that.
Are you really? Well, I mean, it should be. Good, nice to meet you. Yeah, pretty much everything. All my live streams. We gotta find earlier.
I said, we can live around places, but the one.
Yeah.
What time it was taken.
I'll get the time stamp. Where you at?
Back in Saxon.
Easy.
I opened up a business, got a real estate brokerage and property management company. Space Park. Gotta hit the pause button. 1322? 13. The orange. Okay.
Oh, I want to be
Hold
alive.
on, hold on.
I want to be alive.
Yeah, I
wanna
like
be
your live
alive.
stream.
Work is pretty rough.
Stop
Only
streaming.
1%